That looks
That's
good,
better.
Dan.
Does it? Let's try it again.
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
The District of Columbia, also Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and the counties that are south of Prince George's, and even Northern Virginia. We just annexed Northern Virginia, which would be Alexandria and Arlington. So thank everyone for joining our call today. I'll be your point person if your program is in DC, Prince George's, or Montgomery, or even Northern Virginia. You can see on the screen, Mentor Maryland is a nonpartisan organization. We don't support any of the candidates specifically, but we do encourage you to vote. Please vote. We're nonpartisan. We serve as community-based experts and create statewide infrastructure to expand quality relationships for young people. This happens in our schools, it happens in our nonprofit organizations, happens in our colleges and universities. We want to support mentoring for our organizations in our jurisdictions. We provide training, research, public awareness, mentor recruitment, advocacy for stakeholders, all of those different elements that encourage mentoring efforts. We are a part of the Mentor affiliate, excuse me, the Mentor National Association, and we are one of the affiliates, one of 24 affiliates that are all across the country. So there's Mentor Maryland, DC, there's Mentor Rhode Island, Mentor Texas. We are Mentor Maryland, DC. So thanks for joining our call today. I'm going to kick it to KB, who's going to give us a little bit of the webinar logistics.
Hi, friends. So as you can see, we are using a different platform stages. Just want to help walk you through some of the features you can use today. First, if you are not muted, you'll find a mute button at the bottom of your screen under the presentation. Please make sure you're muted unless you are speaking or in a group session for discussion. If you'd like to turn your camera on, you'll see the camera button next to that. And to the left of the microphone, you'll also see some react buttons. So if we're having a discussion and you'd like to speak, you can raise your hand like I just did. You can also click it to put your hand down. You can also react. So if something's really cool, you can give it a heart. You can see there's a heart popping up, or you can give it a thumbs up. Give us some claps, whatever you're feeling. So that's one way to engage with us as well. And at the top of your screen to the right, next to where you'll see people, you'll see the chat, which we are working on y'all being able to function in that. But until then, we also have to the right of that the question mark, which is our questions. So if you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to submit them there. Or the host will then send it to one of us and we'll do our best to answer those questions as they're coming in. And really cool, to the right of that, you'll see a paper with a paper clip. Those are our materials. So these are some things that you can take with you. So there's currently a PDF to chapter 4 of Becoming a Better Mentor, which is what we're going through today. You can be able to click through that, follow along there, take that with you. But just wanted to walk you a little bit through that. But if y'all have any questions as we're going, please feel free to throw those in the questions section, and we will do our best to get there. And you can also turn on captions at the bottom as well, if that's helpful to you. All right, so now that we went through some logistics, we will get started.
So today's agenda, just so everybody will know, we're going to move pretty quickly today. KB, thank you for doing those webinar logistics. You're all right. Community standards we'll start with, then we'll do a quick temperature check icebreaker, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. That's going to be fun. We'll do some examples of attunement, and then we'll give you guys the definition of attunement. We'll do a quick conversation about what attunement is not. Then we'll give you some attunement key points. We're going to break out into some breakout rooms so you can discuss the specific application for attunement in your neck of the woods. Then we'll also talk about attunement in practice, and then we'll finish with some question and answer. So with that being said, we'll jump right in with our community standards. We've got about 7 community standards that we'll share. First is inclusivity. Can I get someone to come off mute and just to read that inclusivity standard?
I can do it.
Please.
Inclusivity.
Our community is open to all, but we also acknowledge the deep-seated racism, sexism, homo and transphobia, misogyny, and ableism that is pervasive in our country. We stand against these isms and actively work to this aim, especially with our youth, and acknowledge that we also approach our work differently and beautifully.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I can't see anybody's pictures. I can't see the names. So, whoever that was, thank you for being brave and coming off mute. The next one, flexibility. Can someone come off mute and share that very quickly? Flexibility.
I will.
Hi,
Just
Go ahead.
flexibility,
Yeah,
share openly, listen openly, be open and pliable when you're sharing might hurt.
very good. Thank you for that. Positivity.
hi, this is Angela Cosby.
Hey,
I'll read
Angela.
positivity. Be generous with positive assumptions, but don't be afraid to ask genuine questions.
Thank you, Angela. Equanimity.
Go for
Equin,
it. I see your hand raised. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Hi, my name's Pei. Positivity. Be generous with positive assumptions, but don't be afraid to ask genuine questions.
And keep going. Do equanimity also.
Equanimity. No matter your role here today, be a host to everyone.
Just a real
Continue.
quick thank you for reading that. I
Okay,
appreciate you
yeah.
coming off mute. One thing that my grandma used to say whenever we would host someone to our house, we would always be kind, we would be generous, we would make sure that they felt as if they were at home. The goal with equanimity in this context for our community standards is that we want everyone to be a host. So everyone will treat everyone kindly as if we want them to make sure that their stay here with us is the positive one. There are three more: intentionality. We don't endeavor to create safe or comfortable spaces, but rather brave spaces. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but we'll continue to push forward. And expressivity. We want this community and experience to be supportive and educational. Many of y'all are stepping off of your jobs for this specific session. We thank you for that. And we want you to feel supported in this call today. And civility. This is one that my partner shares with me quite regularly. She tells me no fixing, no saving, no advising, or correcting her. And so we also want to bring that as one of our community standards. Hey, I can't see you, but if you agree to these community standards, can you give us a thumbs up? Put a thumbs up so that we can see you. And I'm going to ask my team to monitor, make sure we got everybody's thumbs up.
We
And
have so many coming in.
that's so good. All right. Very good.
They're
All
still
right.
coming.
Good, good. We would encourage you in your programs also to set community standards, not only for, your virtual sessions, but even, when you're in person, and have a discussion among your mentees about what are the standards that they want to hold each other accountable to. So this is always a best practice, not only in training sessions, but even when you're having those mentee interactions. So we'll go to our next slide. KB, can you do the temperature check?
Absolutely. First, I want to pause. I see that there are some hands up. So, BJ, I see your hands up. Do you have a question for us? Never mind. Okay. All right, friends. Well, we're going to do a temperature check. What a temperature check is, it really helps us just understand where we are emotionally, especially in the present moment. So, as we know, we all experience different emotions throughout the day, and acknowledging those helps us just be able to stay connected with ourselves as well as one another while we're here in this space. So, this graph above, it helps. We're used to maybe thinking of these as like, I feel happy or sad or surprised, but this helps us break those down even further. So I would love for you all on your own to look at these, try to find where in the big colorful ones where you think you might fall, and maybe even try to break that down even further and think about where you might be today. We'll kind of keep that to ourselves for a moment. And as you're identifying that emotion, once we can get that chat back up or our questions, we will then add that into there. Um, all right. So we'll try this a different way. I don't know if our chat's working. So instead, Let's do a little poll. If you are feeling under the happy column, can you give me a thumbs up?
I like that.
All right, we got a few thumbs ups.
Good.
Awesome. They are rolling in. All right, if you are under this trust column, can you give me a clap? We'll change it up since we
Oh,
saw some
wow,
thumbs up
KB.
coming in. Awesome. Lots going on there.
Yeah.
If you're feeling maybe under that fear column, can you give me a heart? All right, I thank y'all for being honest. All right, surprise. We'll do that laughy face. Cool, cool. For sad, we'll go back to our thumbs ups. For disgust, we'll go, actually very fitting, we'll go to the thumbs down.
Yeah, that's a strong
All right. Clap for angry if you're under that angry column. And remember, this doesn't mean angry, but that could be upset, frustrated, critical. And anticipation if you give me that heart. All right. There's a lot going on there. Awesome.
one.
Thank you all for engaging with me. So we just did this to help us try to check in with where we are. As you can see, there's a huge range of emotions we all shared. In each one of that tells a different story about where we are today, how we're each coming into this training. So if you're noticing that your current emotion maybe doesn't feel super comfortable to you, just remember that this space is designed for support, for learning, and connection. So we just want to make sure that just want you to know you are accepted and cool however you're coming in here today. And we're hoping to learn here together. So we will jump into some of our content. And again, today we are learning about attunement. So we're going to jump into some of those examples with Dan.
Yeah, and just real quick before we jump into those examples, this temperature check is really important as you are working in your programs. Can someone come off mute and kind of maybe share why do you think temperature check is important in this particular class that we're teaching on attunement? Just one person. What are your thoughts?
Well, in my opinion, the temperature check is important because we get to know the audience, how they're feeling, what is their motivation to joining the course, and how, in a better way, we can engage with them so that they can learn something meaningful. Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you. And that's exactly right. It really helps us set the stage to determine where everyone is, how everybody's feeling emotionally, and then we can step into attunement from there. The next slide that I want to share, there are three examples that we're going to provide today for attunement. You guys can take these and utilize them with your own programs. We're going to start, first of all, with the old car radio. And I want you to listen to these and just give us just take it in. No. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. I need to go to the next slide. There we go. All
You're doing
right.
great.
Got it. There we go. Thanks, KB, for that encouragement. All right, that's the first one. Let's go to the second one. Okay, it doesn't look like the link is working. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to go back to here and click on this one. Did you understand it though? No. No. Huh? Oh, not this one. This is right now. Okay, so yeah, that's right. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Don't bring that again. You know what I'm saying? Don't do the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's exactly good.
All right, and we'll go to the third example of attunement. Looks like once again, here we go. There's the link. All of those are examples of attunement. I'd be really interested in hearing someone come off mute and try to figure out what do these examples have in common. Somebody come off mute and share.
They're all kind of searching for something. They're looking or scrolling. They don't start off set.
Mm, good point. Good point. What else? We had the car radio, which you had the kind of searching for the station. You had the young man and his son also talking, and then the last one was the orchestra. In terms of attunement, what do these examples have in common?
Um, Hi, good morning. So from my guess, it would be them all being in like one accord. I don't know if that makes, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, same page, one
Yes,
accord in,
same
yeah.
page in one accord. That's really good. Really good. Okay, let's do one more.
Yeah, it's about the process of getting to the right tune or on the right page.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper in those in just a second. I'm going to ask KB if she can give us a couple of the definitions for attunement as we move forward. All
Did
right.
you understand it though? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. So as that pops up on our screen here in a second, um, we're going to go through some different definitions of attunement. As we know, the word attunement has multiple definitions, which, as y'all just reflected and sharing with us, each reflects kind of a different concept of alignment or harmony in a different context. So, as we look through these, could I have a volunteer read the Collins Dictionary definition? And you can raise your hand if you're ready to share. Awesome, Jasmine, go for it.
It says the act of making harmonious, having parts combined in a proportionate, orderly, or pleasing arrangement, congruous, having similar or conforming feelings, ideas, interests, etc., in accord, having musical tones combined to give a pleasing effect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Everyone give Jasmine a little clap in the reaction.
Thank you, Jasmine.
All right, and then we have another definition. So this is from the Journal of Psychotherapy definition. And just to preface this, as we know in psychology, attunement can refer to the process of which when responding or resonating to another person, kind of like what we saw with the baby. It might be used to describe how parents or caregivers tune into the needs and emotions of their children or helping folks feel more understood and supported. So with that in mind, can I have a friend? Oh, I have lots of hands raised. Okay. I'll go in order. So Janet, I'll have you go, and then BJ, you'll read my next one, okay? So Janet, go for it.
Is a kinesthetic an emotional sensing of others knowing their rhythm, effect, and experience by metaphorically being in their skin and going beyond empathy to create a two-person experience of unbroken feeling, connectedness by providing a reciprocal effect and or resonating response. Erickson, 1998.
Perfect. Thank you so much for reading that for me. So that's another example of what attunement may look like. And lastly, in the mentoring context, we're going to work to use this definition. So this is a definition we're working with today. Can someone please read our mentoring definition for me? BJ, I'm going to have you go since you were my next hand up.
Mentoring definition, a term used to describe a set of communication strategies employed by a mentor to facilitate relationship connection, resulting in the mentee's sense of feeling heard and seen.
Beautiful. Thank you all for sharing and helping me read through those. So, as we said, the word attunement has multiple definitions. Each of these are reflecting the concept of harmony or alignment in different contexts. And so, just wanted to kind of connect this back to what we were just seeing with those examples that Dion provided. As we know, like in that baby talk one, the father was really ensuring that he was affirming his baby, even though he had no clue what the baby was saying, but he was really tuning into the emotions of the child and helping them feel understood and supported. In music, like in that last one that Dayon shared, it really allows us to attunement might denote like what it looks like to process the process of tuning an instrument so that the instruments are in harmony, which makes something sound really nice, right? And so in a broader sense, we can think of attunement as referring to alignment with our environment, our situation, another person and their energy, and overall just reflecting an overall state of synchronization or sensitivity to those external conditions. So it could be emotional, musical, environmental, but it really signifies that state of connectedness and responsiveness. And we're going to jump into what that looks like in mentoring today. So thank you all for helping me read through those.
That's so good, KB. And I love what you shared also about in the music definition, when everyone is on the same tune or on the same page with as far as in a symphony, or even as you're tuning your radio and getting it all, it produces a sound that is significantly different than when there's a lot of dissonance, when there's a lot of noise. And so even when you're entering into your mentoring context, when you're sitting across the table from your mentee, there's always going to be significant amounts of noise that are around you, but being able to hone in so that you and your mentee are on the same page and are hearing the same music is also critical for attunement. We're going to step now into what attunement is not. So we're going to give you guys a video to watch. And in this video, we want you to identify areas where the mentor's attunement could be improved, where the mentor's attunement can be improved. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break out into some breakout sessions and discuss how that could be improved.
When your father died, how did that make you?
I don't know, I was 9. It was like there was this distinction suddenly between you and the rest of the world. I looked around me. Life went on just like it did before. But it wasn't like it was before. My uncle helped. He would visit. He at least listened. And I thought, if I could light my own farts, I could fly to the moon, or at least Uranus. But if I couldn't do that, at least I could use my as a pogo stick, and that might be a way.
way of getting around. I'm sorry? Yes, that's good. Yes, well, I think you're making fine progress, Hunter. We'll talk later in group. When your father died, how did...
All right,
All
Pay, I
right.
see you have your hand up. Are you?
Sorry, I didn't realize the clip
Oh,
wasn't over
no
yet.
worries.
Okay, I'll wait.
Cool. Well, I know that video brings out a lot of strong emotions when we talk about attunement and our ability to listen. What we're going to do right now, we're going to break up into some small groups and allow you to discuss, because Kiana and I could really jump in and start going off on that that doctor, but we're going to allow you to do it in your small groups. How did the video make you feel? What did you notice about your reaction? So tune into what you're feeling first. That's the first thing. And then secondarily, what are some of the specific verbal and nonverbal signs of misalignment that you noticed in the scenario between the doctor and Robin Williams? And then how could the doctor how could he have approached the conversation differently? And then lastly, how might these signs affect the mentee's experience and development? So we're going to break up into some smaller groups. We're going to allow you to discuss, and please take notes as you break up into the smaller groups, because we want you to come back and we'll share when we come back together again. I think we're going to take about 8 to 10 minutes in this small groups to discuss the attunement video. All right.
Um, yep, I'm going to launch the rooms and everyone should be automatically moved.
Welcome back.
I love it. I love it. There we go. When I stop sharing my screen, I can see everybody's face. This is going to help me be a little bit more interactive with you guys. So thank you. It's good to see your faces. All right. All right.
And you're seeing like too many faces at the same time.
There's a lot of faces, but I can see them. Thank you, Mohammed. I'm glad you're on the call, my friend. Glad you're on the call. It's good to see you and meet you. And all the other
Thank you,
beautiful
brother.
faces. Glad that y'all are with us. Oh my goodness. I didn't see Kayla. What? Eastern Shore? All right. All right. It's good to see you. This exercise to break up into our smaller groups just to talk about that video. Okay, anyone want to come off mute and just, first of all, talk about how that video made you feel, right? Because attunement is really important because we have to assess as the mentors how we're feeling first. So, can someone come off mute, talk about what you shared in your group about how you were feeling?
Hi.
I was disgusted because I felt like he did not care about his patient. And we think that the patient was in maybe a psychiatric ward or something. So they didn't have a choice to be there. And since he was there, the doctor should have cared a little bit.
Right, right. And I love
Especially since he's getting paid whether the guy comes or not. But we just think that he should have been in tune. He should have, been present.
right, right. And I love your feeling because you were disgusted. That's a
Yeah, I was.
strong emotion, right? How many of y'all, if you can resonate with that feeling of being disgusted, just kind of give a wave your hand. And it's so important that we are in tune with our emotions, and disgusted is definitely a good emotion. Let's get one more person to come off mute and share how they were feeling in that space, how you felt in that space.
I
Hi.
think, oh,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll just be quick. I think, like, probably everyone has had a moment where they haven't felt heard. And that just brought back a lot of those memories of just
Ooh.
not being listened to.
Ooh, wow. I love mentioning that because how many have y'all ever been in a situation where you felt like you just weren't heard as a kid? Let's go back as a kid, right? You know that the adults in the room were not paying attention, right? And that brought back those I love that you mentioned that, because that brought back those feelings for me. And if you're mentoring me and I'm going, back in my head and thinking about things that happened in the past, in order to be attuned with me, you have to be mindful of those things. I really like bringing in that. So not only did we feel disgusted, but it also brought back a whole whirlwind of emotions of us not being heard or seen. What were some of the non-verbal cues that y'all picked up in that video? What were some of the non-verbal signs of misalignment? Someone come off mute for that.
There was no eye contact.
The whole time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Eye contact
filling
is
with the
critical.
coffee.
Right.
Like
There was no eye
the
contact. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lazaria.
Oh, am I on? I'm sorry. I don't know how to work this like this form of video chat. So it's
You're doing
take it
good.
what
I
you
can hear you.
it's
I can hear
but
you.
while watching it, I was like, okay, well clearly he don't want to be here. He just here for the check. He don't care that the man trying to talk about his problem and he the one like okay, not him trying to be the doctor. He ain't the doctor. He up in the ward. So what's going on? Somebody he trying to talk and have a conversation, and the man just like okay, bye, I'm leaving, see you next week when I come in and I don't want to talk again, and we ain't going to talk about none of your issues or none of your problems,
Oh
but I'm
my
gonna write
goodness.
this down now, maybe.
Right. He took notes. And that's so funny. So not only did he not make the eye contact, he didn't even give the impression that he wanted to be there.
Very much so.
Oh my goodness. So thank you for bringing that out. Let's okay, let's do this. Let's do one more, because that video really set it off for me. Just as y'all can tell. All right. Let's bring this to our practice. How might these signs, one, the nonverbal, not no eye contact, and the appearing like we've got multiple things that we're doing, how do these signs affect the mentee's experience? So now let's think about Robin Williams in this space and what he must have left feeling, in this whole space. So let's come off mute. And this is where we really need to drill down into, as to be practitioners in this space, as effective mentors. We've got to be able to put ourselves empathetically in the mentee's shoes. So what do you guys think, Robin Williams? How did this affect his experience? How is this going to affect his development moving forward?
I
Talk.
in my group I shared with the fact that we may only get one shot with a mentee when they're opening up, and you're not actively engaged or listening, or you're distracted and not attentive. It
Yeah.
may be that one time that you're not going to get another. They're
Wow.
pouring out their heart, they're pouring out whatever it is they may be challenged with at that time, and you're making coffee and it's blah blah blah. Okay, I'll see you next week. They may never open up again. And in
Wow.
today's society, that's would be very disheartening, because it could be that moment
Wow.
that they ever speak,
Wow.
especially with the suicide rate and things of
Oh
that
my
nature.
goodness.
So active listening is what I got, and the dismissiveness of being ignored, or when you explain how you're feeling, and that confirmation of no one cares. That's what I
Yeah.
got from that.
Janet, I love your thoughts, because what you just shared, it really made the little bit of hair on the back of my neck stand up, because when we think about Robin Williams, uh, and just his life, and wondering if he had been listened to, if he had been heard, that brought it. I didn't put that two and two together until you said it. And that we have one chance, yeah, with some of our mentees. Yes. Who would also come off mute and talk about, okay, how would these,
Yeah.
how is this critical? Yes.
It
Go
looks
ahead,
like we
KB.
have some hands up too. So I just wanted to make sure we're
Can you
giving
pull
those
them,
folks some time
KB?
to
Can
speak.
you pull them?
Yeah. Looks like we have Pei, Janet. Janet, I know you just spoke. Mohammed and Vicky. So Pei, if you want to kick us off, there's
Uh,
something you wanted to share.
well, I had raised my hand a while ago, and
I'm
we
sorry.
basically, no, that's okay. But, everyone else has said pretty much the things that I had wanted to say. But that point that Janet made just now about being the one shot with a mentee is very true, and I agree with you, Janet. And plus, it's not just this first time where you might have the opportunity, because Robin Williams started talking very seriously, wasn't heard, and then he got a little bit meek and he started deflecting by joking, and he still
Hmm.
wasn't heard. And then the doctor recognized that he had missed something, and said, "I'm sorry." Like, but then he answered his own "I'm sorry" by saying, "Well, we'll cover that some other time." So it's not just
Hmm.
missing the first opportunity, but it's missing the opportunity of building on a relationship with your patient.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Mohammed, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, sure. If firstly, like what I was thinking is that the doctor is maybe not in a good place in his mind. Like maybe he said, I got a doctorate degree, I should be dealing with people in like private sector and making more money. What am I doing here in like a mental asylum or dealing with people who have difficulties in their life and things like that? So in that sense, like, or maybe like he was just not interested in his job or his responsibility. So firstly, like as a mentor, we have to be honest with our own selves, with our own abilities, with our own skills, because then we can be honest with the other person and we can help that person. So that is.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think many of you who are executive directors and program leads, Muhammad, to your point, we have staff that are working, that we're supervising, that we also need to understand what are their motives and are they able to attend and attune to the mentees if they have, Muhammad, like you mentioned, these other preconceived notions that they step into the mentoring space. So, Muhammad, that is very important, especially for us, those of us that are leading mentoring organizations and we have mentors that are working under our purview. I really appreciate you sharing that. All right.
Vicky, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, everyone said has been wonderful. In fact, my heart almost broke when Janet shared, because it's so true about this missed opportunity. But just the thing that comes to mind is about being available, mentally, emotionally, and then the other word which I love in the mentor definition is to facilitate connection. And to me, it's, that's a good question to always, are my actions facilitating connection? Can my mentee connect with me? And because the connection allows them to feel heard and seen. So that's all I wanted to contribute, but this is a great discussion.
Vicky, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank everyone for contributing. This is such a rich conversation. And I am going to share my screen. So I'm going to go back off into uh, Netherlands, but I'm going to share a couple more slides with you, furthering the discussion on attunement. So let's see here. Hey, wait, I can see everybody. Can you guys see the slides?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? Wait, something just happened. All right. I can see everybody now. All right. And y'all can see the slides. You're telling me you can see the slides.
Yes,
Oh,
we can see the slides. They look good,
okay.
Dan.
I don't know what I did, KB, but I can see everyone now. So, KB, I think you're supposed to talk about these snapshots. Is that right?
I can definitely talk about the snapshots. Yeah. So if we are thinking, why is this important? Why is learning about attunement important? It is important for us to develop a strong self-awareness about our own emotional and physical state, because it allows us, as Janet, you said, and really rung true with a lot of us, it allows us to be better equipped to read the cues of our mentees and respond to their preferences, their needs, and just be a better mentor, right? Where it allows us to be able to um, attune to them and really understand what their needs are and show up for them in a way that they feel heard and understood. So if you forget this entire training existed, this is the one point you want to remember, that is the why. As we think about what we're learning today and what we're hoping to walk away with, We are hoping to walk away today with understanding that attunement is a process of paying attention to a young person, or their parent or their guardian or whoever else may be in a young person's lives in the moment. So being really attentive in the moment and noticing their cues in order to meet them where they are. This often involves reading body language, reading those verbal signs of how to understand how to move forward in that interaction. As we know, a brief check in with ourselves, so kind of how we started this training, checking in with where our emotions are, how we might be showing up in a space is important, especially before we connect with our mentee, allows us to then attune to your own needs, your own nonverbal cues as well. And all of these cues could look like things you may not think of when you think of like how you're showing up emotionally. It could be just feeling an extra tension in your neck, a faster heart rate, a sense of fatigue, a faster gait. It could be many of these different things, but making sure that we understand where we are and how we're showing up and being honest in that way with our mentees is really how we make sure that we do this well, and that we provide an opportunity for us to be attuned with our mentees.
That's so good. Thank you, KB.
Thank
This
you,
is a
Dan.
real cool. You can write these down as well. These go along with the key points that we just shared. This is something that you can bring in into your mentoring space. These 5 steps: check in, walk in, dial in, listen in, and check back in. And so we've tried to model this whole attunement process in this call, in this training. The first thing is to check in with yourself, right? Before you enter into your conversations with your mentee. It's funny because I was thinking this applies to all of our relationships, really. When you walk into a conversation with someone, check in with yourself first. What am I feeling? What are the emotions that I'm sensing? We did the temperature check at the beginning. That's critical. The second part is walking in and really observing the environment and the what's happening around your mentee. It's really trying to be observant of the cues and the environment and the vibe that's happening around your mentee when you're entering into that space. So the first one is to check in. The second is to check in with yourself. And then the second one is to walk in. Now, dialing in is the third part. When you dial in, that's when you are, unlike the doctor who was talking to Robin Williams, dialing in means really, like, y'all see how big my eyes are. Dialing in means just focusing in on your mentee, dialing into their verbal and their nonverbal cues, really trying to pay attention, trying to absorb it all in. Think of that symphony, and we're trying to get on the same note with your mentee. It's critical. That dial in is critical because it allows the mentee to see physically that you are paying attention to what they're saying. It's critical for attunement. The fourth one is this listen in. That's with the active listening. And you know, when your mentee mentions something, you want to echo back the question, or you want to echo back, hey, did you say this? Explain this to me a little bit more clearly. That listening in, that active listening, lets the mentee know, one, that you've been paying attention, but it also gives it this air of taking the conversation deeper. And whenever that happens, that mentee will feel the connection. So you check in first with yourself. You walk in, observe all the situations, the surroundings. Is it a busy day? Is what's happening? Then dialing in to the mentee verbally and non-verbally. Fourth, listening in, active listening, asking the questions, finding out what the mentee is feeling. And then lastly is to check back in, which is really circling back on the entire conversation, allowing the mentee to talk about, okay, what were they feeling when they came in? What did we pick up on the course of this mentee engagement? What were you feeling throughout? What are our next steps? That check back in, just to make sure that the mentee realizes that they were connected with. This is a really quick and easy way to implement attunement. Now, I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions or comments on this 5-step attunement model?
Uh,
Mohammed, I see
well,
your hand up.
yes, one question that I was that a mentor, for example, the person, when he's a mentor, he's basically guiding for a long term the other person. They're improving their skills, their communication in different type of ways. So sometimes, like when they're dialing in the point, so sometimes we have to, like, if we get too much involved or too much close to that person, so we might create another version of ourselves. But what we want to is, we want to create that person to be his own person. So that is my point, like getting too much involved and like in a nitty gritty way, so are we actually not like harming the potential of the other person?
I think you mentioned something very critical, Mohammed, is the establishment of boundaries. If I understand your question correctly, it's very easy to become enmeshed when we don't have boundaries with our mentee. But this attunement process is not getting in the weeds as far as the dependency and trying to have that codependency with your mentee. Instead, you are really trying to maintain this relationship of um, one that has boundaries, but one that also is giving the mentee efficacy and agency in their own life. So I would stop there. KB, what would you add, or would anyone else add? Muhammad, I really like that question.
Yeah, it looks like Alexia has her hand up as well.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to share. It's been like a really good conversation, and it made me also think about the reciprocity in a mentor-mentee relationship, right? Like you have to keep your boundaries, but you can learn so much about yourself when you're mentoring somebody. And so it's also to me so critical and crucial to like A, keep those boundaries, but B, always like check back in with yourself about what's coming up when you're working with somebody because it comes into play, kind of like that checking in with yourself. It really comes into play, and it can't, I don't think it that we should downplay how much we can learn from our mentees about ourselves
I like
in the process of being supportive of them. We should also have our own mentors that can be supportive of us from some of the things that we may learn in our mentee mentor relationship. So I just love how we're all always integral parts of our of each other's lives in one way or another, and just keeping that cycle going. So this is a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
great, great, great,
Thanks
great.
for being here, Alexia. It's good to see your name pop up. Also, yeah, that's a huge point. Like, we're also consistently learning about ourselves and how things may come up for us, right? So how does that make us show up in a mentee mentor relationship? That's good.
That's so good. That's so good. And I just saw another friend of ours from USG, University of Shady Grove, who runs the mentoring program at University of Shady Grove. Thank you for joining us, Rebecca. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
BJ,
Go ahead,
BJ,
KB.
I see your hand up. Do you have a question for us or something to add?
I was gonna say the last one, the checking in. I think it needs to be a check-in times two because we deal with, well, at least with my program, we deal with a lot of youth and the situations that they go through not only are damaging to them, but could be damaging to the mentor as well. We have situations where people are after the people we're mentoring, and it's like, oh, those are the people right there. So then the mentor could have like, oh man, or something about to happen to us, and we about to get jumped, or what's about to happen, we about to be in a gun, whatever the situation may be. So I think the mentor needs to also know their attunement and their awareness with each of the situations they're dealing with the youth
Yeah.
so that way, if they know a situation has happened, they can call their direct supervisor. Because I have a lot of my staff who will call me in the middle of the night after
Mhm.
they finish in the field, be like, hey, you have time to talk right now. And I think it is important for the supervisors to also have that open relationship and attunement with whoever their staff is, so that way their staff feels comfortable to come back to them, um, so they can basically just I want to say just divulge everything to them, just vent to them, whatever it is, so that way they can be refreshed to help the youth later on. And if they need some assistance or like somebody just to tap in, they can call their supervisor. Supervisor already knows what's going on, and they can help them. And everybody is more well rounded because dealing with them, we're getting them at a certain time in their life where our
Right.
relationship with them is going to dictate how they relate to their parents, other youth,
Right.
relationships, and actually the adult they're going to become later on in life because we're there when their minds are developing.
I
Yeah,
really like,
that's a really good point.
yeah. I love what you shared because most of y'all are program directors or executive directors, and we are responsible for the mentors that we're supervising. And this 5 step process is going to be good as you check in with your mentors, also that are working under you. That check in, you know, going through that whole process. And I mentioned, alluded to it, this applies for all of our relationships. And I really like the fact that you mentioned, that this is really important for our supervisors in connecting and really checking in with the mentors and making sure that they feel supported as they are boots on the ground working with our young people. I want to give the next part of our training, we're almost done. I'm going to give you 10 tips, but I need you to take out a sheet of paper because I want out of these 10 tips, I want you to pick your top 2. All right. Y'all ready? These are the top 10 attunement tips. For those of you who are old like me, maybe David Letterman, I would start from the bottom up, but we won't. Uh, some of y'all got that. Okay, so top 10 attunement tips. 1, practice active listening. All right. Pay close attention to what the mentee says, both verbally and non-verbally. Show interest by nodding. Maintaining eye contact. All right. Asking open-ended questions. We talked about that to understand their thoughts and emotions. Number 2, acknowledge and validate emotions. Recognize and validate what the mentee is feeling without judgment. Okay, don't make those faces. You know how sometimes when we're listening to somebody, we make faces? Don't make faces when your mentee is sharing their emotions. This helps create a safe environment for the mentee to express themselves openly. Those are the first 2. All right, here we go. 3 and 4. Be present and fully engaged. Avoid distractions. All right, put your phone down. Avoid distractions when you're talking to your mentee. Being fully present demonstrates respect, right? And it shows that you value the mentee's time and experience. That's number 3. Number 4, tailor your approach to their individual needs. We know all of our mentees are different. Adjust your mentoring style based on their personality, not yours, based on theirs, their goals, their current challenges, ensuring that your support aligns with where they are in their journey. That's 3 and 4. Y'all doing okay? Let me give you 5 and 6. Y'all ready? 5, cultivate empathy. Put yourself in your mentee's shoes. Better understand their perspective. Empathy fosters deeper connection. Number 6, develop emotional awareness. Now, this is what we've been talking about the whole time. Beware of your own emotions and reactions during the mentoring session. Sometimes your mentee will say something that might trigger you, right? Can I get an amen? So we have to be able to manage our own emotional responses and to remain attuned. So that's 5 and 6. Here we go. Y'all ready for 7 and 8? Provide timely and constructive feedback is an important for attunement. Offer feedback that is both supported and growth oriented. Timely feedback helps the mentee reflect and course correct. Number 8, encourage reflection and self awareness. I love this one. Prompt the mentee to reflect. How did that make you feel? A lot of our programs are doing de escalation and helping their mentees be able to kind of step back from emotional situations. And so, this is something that we can all do is encourage reflection and self awareness. 9 and 10, stay open and non-judgmental. This kind of alludes back to number 6. Create a safe space for the mentee. And number 10, be patient and responsive to your mentee's growth pace. Those are your 10 top attunement tips. I don't have my band with me, but my band will be playing right now. And now here's what we got to do. If you're able to put in the chat, is our chat working? Can we do that, KB? Or how
No,
should we do
chat is
this?
not working.
How
We
about we
can do
get,
reactions.
yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And if you want to come off mute and maybe talk about what your top attunement tip is, and then we will shut this thing down and land the plane. Give me some feedback, y'all. What do you think about those top 10 attunement tips? What stuck out for you? Give us your reactions. Got some
Go
thumbs
for
up.
it. I see some hands up. Mohammed, you can kick us off, and then we have Alexia and Lazaria.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first point that I would really like to say is that the listening, because it is similarly like a quotation when he said that the things that count the most in life are the things that cannot be counted. Similarly, the listening is a skill that usually people say it's a passive skill, but it is a really very active skill. So if we are listening to the other person, we are not just learning more about that person, we are giving that person importance as well. And also the point number 8, that was very important, because here we are not the ones who are changing that person, but rather that person is the driving force, should be that person, his own goals, his own ambitions, and we are just there to push him, and he is there to achieve his own goals. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
I
Yeah,
love
thank
that.
you.
Things that count in
Um,
life can't be counted. Woo. I got that
mhm.
one. Who's next?
All right, we have quite a few hands up, so we'll kick it to Alexia and then Lazaria.
Yeah, really quick. I thought for me, it was definitely number 8, encourage reflection and self-awareness, because ultimately that's the goal, is for that young person to be able to self-soothe, think through the things, and navigate in a way that's productive and healthy for them, and not so centered around what I want you to do. It's not about what I want you to do. It's what's best for you, how you get to that conclusion. So I feel like number 8 really centers the whole point of a mentoring relationship, is to grow that person and subsequently hopefully yourself. And then also I like the tailored approach because it's individual. Each mentee is an individual, and so I think it's really important to make sure that we are connecting in a way that the mentee can receive it. It's no one size fits all in mentoring.
I love that. Very good. So good. Who's next? Who? It was Lazaria was next?
Yes. And then Pay.
And can you hear me? Okay, I think it is.
Yes.
Okay. Personally, as we were going through the 10, I felt as though they are all equally as important to one another, but the
Hmm.
main one that stood out for me was acknowledgement and value emotions, because for the mentee, it's very important that they feel heard, that they feel like someone is actually listening to what they have going on and what they're saying, because to not feel heard is to not feel valued, and you will want your mentees and mentors to then feel value within your company, because how are you going to keep people if they don't feel valued? You won't be able to. You're going to have to go through the rehiring stage every while and again because you aren't listening to what your people have to say, and you're here for your people. So if you're here for your people, you would then have to acknowledge, even if you don't agree with what they have to say half of the time, it's still important that you hear them out and hear what they have to say, and then like give your reflection on what they said. So that's like the main one for me, and then the other one would be like what was it, the judgment. I don't know which. Oh, 9.
Nine.
Basically, I say that anybody who I meet or anybody like that I'm around, I'm like, this is a judgment-free zone. You can go ahead, say
Mhm.
whatever you need to say. There's no judgment here because everyone has their own challenges and their own like things going on in their life. So this is judgment-free zone. You can go ahead, get everything you need to get off your emotions so that at the end of this like chat or talk or whatever, you can also feel better, and then you feel like you got weight lifted off of your shoulders type of thing. So yeah, those are the top two for me personally, but they are
Yeah.
all equally as important to one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I heard you saying about this doesn't only apply to mentees, right? This applies to the mentors and how you support them. And we do view that as a parallel process, right? Whether we like it or not, supervisors are informal mentors, right? And so as long as you're supporting the people that are supporting the young people, everyone feels supported, right? I'm going to kick it to Pay, and then Janet, you are after Pay.
Thank you. I would say that all 10 tips are interdependent
Hmm.
upon one
Hmm.
another. So you can't really do one without fully immersing yourself into all the other steps.
Right,
And in terms of the acknowledgement and the validation of the mentees, or maybe even your own emotions, I think that kicks back to step 4 in that the listen in step
right.
that you covered before, is that oftentimes, and I've seen it done, the mentor will kind of hear what the mentee says and try to listen in and acknowledge and validate by saying something like, or even exactly like, well, what I hear you saying, the person has just said,
Yes.
well, I think I'm cold when the room is cold. And then the mentor says, what I hear you saying is that you think you feel cold when the room is cold. And sometimes don't underestimate your mentee's intelligence. This is
Mhm,
like parroting back is not enough in terms of an acknowledgement. And what
mhm.
you had said earlier about posing questions. I think that's a better way of repeating to them that you understood what they're saying. Is like,
Mm,
take what they say. It says, "Oh, I understand what you said about, I heard what you said about feeling cold in the room. Do you think that we should, what, what steps do you feel that we could take?
right, right.
You know, turning up the
Mhm.
heat or getting you a sweater. So reacting to what they say to acknowledge that you've heard them rather than just parroting what they've said because they know
Yeah,
what they said.
like that.
Right, that's really good.
Got time for one more, KB?
Yes, we have Janet.
Yeah, it's number 2. I keep going back to number 2, just the acknowledgement of their feelings. I am one to encourage you to feel what you feel unapologetically because your feelings actually matter. And then that would tie into number 6 for me of, I believe, um, is it Dion?
Dayon?
Dayon,
Mhm.
shared that when it could trigger you with what they're sharing. So
Yeah.
to make certain that you're acknowledging where your emotions and reactions, be it non-verbally or verbally, to what they're sharing about how they're feeling, because most of us, I'm going to speak for me, I have to be who I needed when I was younger. That's the
Mhm.
motivation for me and my why of why I mentor, and it can be triggering when they're going through similar
Yeah.
situations. So to be aware of yourself and your reactions, even if you have to take a moment to have them reflect on how they're feeling to give you a pause.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Thank y'all for sharing so openly. This has been amazing. I know, KB, you want to share this one more. What are your thoughts, KB?
Yeah, so thank you all for sharing with us. Just to sum up what we've learned today, we have a quick little video that will kind of just put a pretty bow on it, and then we will after this just talk about what our actions are. How are we going to walk away with this? We have a question for you to reflect on, and then we will be all good to go. So I'll turn it over to Dan to play the video, and then we'll come back together with just a quick reflection question. Sound good?
Good,
Awesome.
good, good.
Becoming a better mentor, strategies to be there for young people. Attunement in mentoring relationships. When you hear the word attunement, the standard definition that might come to mind is of things being harmonious and people connecting to their surroundings and to other people. Much like the common definition, there is also attunement in mentoring relationships. Attunement is the process of paying attention to a young person in the moment and noticing their cues in order to meet them where they are. This often involves reading body language and verbal signs to understand how to move forward in the interaction. To begin, attunement involves calming or centering yourself and noticing your own cues. Ask yourself, am I feeling anxious? Worried about my mentee? Have I had a long day already? Am I dragging as I greet my mentee? Or am I excited and eager, building off our last great conversation? As you attune to yourself, you will be better able to attune to your mentee's verbal and nonverbal cues. Young people often communicate with their body language as much as with their voices, so observing cues like noticing eye contact, body posture, pace of speech, and other behaviors can help you respond in a way that makes sense for the interaction. As you read the cues of your mentee, you can collaborate and explore how to best address their needs. You can do that through discussion using a series of questions. Ask them if they are getting to what they wanted to talk about today, or if they have anything else on their minds. These questions allow you to share power with your mentee and give them another opportunity to identify or remind you what is most important to them. At the end of your interaction, ask questions like, what stands out from our time together? Questions like these will help you to reflect upon and address any points that have arisen in the course of your time together. Finally, and most important, don't give up as you work to develop your attunement skills. It's a slow but steady process, and when you misstep, as we all do, don't hesitate to acknowledge your oversight and repair what you missed. Developing these skills is a worthwhile investment that can strengthen not only your relationship with your mentee, but also other important relationships across your life. See the full chapter at mentoring.org/bettermentor for more tips on how you can be a better mentor.
Awesome. So as we reflect on that video first, again, I just want to point us to the materials that is beside. Should be in your upper right corner. If you would like to read the whole chapter that this training is based on, feel free to do that. There's a PDF there that we linked for y'all. But before you go, we just want to take a moment to digest everything that we just focused in on, and want to ask, what is one practice that you can commit to today that will help you read your own and your mentee's cues more clearly? And if that question doesn't resonate with you, maybe how do you know you are being effective in being attuned to your mentee? So what's something that you'll do to ensure that you are practicing attunement, and what's something that will allow you to know you're doing it effectively? You can come off mute. You can write that personally to yourself and keep that as a commitment, but we just want to make sure that you have an opportunity to take something with you. And I see a few hands raised. Cool. Taboo, I'll have you kick us off.
I would like to go back to number 2, acknowledge and validate emotions. I do not have a poker face at all. So I need to work on that when I'm interacting with the scholars, because I do not have a poker face. So that is one thing that I am definitely going to have to make sure I check, and feed off of if I happen to slip, feed off of their response and apologize and check myself.
Yeah, that's so
Okay.
good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
Yes, one point that I would like to share is that firstly, it has been a really great experience. I would like to thank the team, the Dan especially for all his efforts. And one thing is that the perspective towards life that we can take, for example, FAIL is fail. But if we try to put in it in a positive sense, like saying like flying again in life. So if we can take that positive thing towards and we can show that positive energy to our mentee, then they can become mentor to someone else. And this should be the target of a mentor, that the mentee, our mentee, becomes a better mentor than us for someone else. So this
Wow.
is what we can take forward.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Mohammed.
you for sharing that.
Wow. You get a lot of love in
Vicky,
the chat, Mohammed.
mm-hmm. Vicky, I see your hand up.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is, and I love that question about what can we practice, and it's interesting that the top 10 attunement tips, the two that I chose that are, I'm passionate about, is not the one that I'm going to practice, but it's number 10. It's being patient and responsive to their growth process, because I
Mm,
think that can be challenging. We want to see progress, and we have in our own minds where we think they could be going, but to be patient and let them set the pace. I know that I'm going to be practicing that because I know I'm authentic. That's an area of my development. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with
Thank you
you on
for
that
being vulnerable and
one.
sharing
Yeah.
that with us. Yeah. Thank you, Vicky. Anyone else want to share before we wrap up? Yeah, what's up, Anaya?
I was gonna say number 6, develop emotional self-awareness, because it's very easy to be there for somebody, and when you're in the moment, sometimes you don't recognize your own feelings and how you might react to something. So
Right.
until you have like that self-reflection, it's something that should be actively practiced, and just knowing how you're going to react to certain situations, or just, knowing where you are in life and where you are in, your personal happenings is important to make sure
Yeah.
you're on top of that, so that, nothing you have kind of falls over onto your mentee or into anybody else. So,
That's so
yeah,
good.
I think that was really important.
It's so good. Well, I
Perfect.
think
Well,
if go ahead, KB.
I think I was doing what you were doing. I was just going to say thank you all for being with us today, and for joining us in this session and for sticking with us through some of these tech issues as we were trying out a new platform. But we really hope to see you at another session soon. Before you head off, Dan and I are going to hang out here, answer any questions. Again, the materials are available. Please take those with you. And Renee in the chat put a training evaluation form in there. We
Right.
would love to learn how we can,
Please.
what you loved, what you didn't love, how we can improve. So please, please, please share any feedback you may have with us. But we'll hang out here for a few more minutes just as y'all have any questions, want to discuss anything else. But thank you again for hanging out with us today.
And just